Hello, everyone. I'm Connie Myers, and this is the Kick Butt Leadership Interview Series. I am so deeply honored today to have an amazing gentleman joining me. His name is Sir John Shin. Sir John, thank you so much for joining me.
Yes, Connie, excited to be here.
He is a serial entrepreneur. We're talking serious here, serious serial. He's a philanthropist. He's a movie producer. He's an author, motivational speaker, critically acclaimed business coach. He's actually helped 26 different companies from the very beginning and from scratch reach over multi-million dollar enterprises, become multi-dollar enterprises. He also has an amazing foundation called All for One, which we'll be talking about more here in a minute. He's doing a lot of good work all around the world. And then he has a movie that's traveling all around the world that's called Think and Grow Rich, The Legacy. I think he really qualifies as being the reinvented Napoleon Hill, because he also has a book that he wrote called How Rich Asians Think and Grow Rich. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. But the first thing I'm going to ask you, John, is the same thing I ask everybody. Were you a leader as a child?
That's a great question. I think when you're growing up, you have your little cliques. You've got your friends, that you hang out with. And, I guess I could say that there were times that I was a leader and things that we wanted to do. So we would all get together on a Friday and say, what are we going to do this weekend? And so, some people wanted to go to the beach. Some people wanted to go see a movie. Some people want to go to an amusement park. And so everybody had different things, obviously. And so, a leader would, I guess I would say, well, guys, I think we should just do this, because these are the reasons that we could all equally benefit, and it was not always one or, the world we live in today, it seems like we live in a world of and or, right? It's not, it's one or the other. It's like you either want to have a job or you want to start a business. Well, but why can't you have both? Why can't you have a job and a business? Well, why can't we go to the beach and go see a movie? Why can't, so it's always one or the other versus why can't we put the word and in there? So that's like one of the things I used to say to my friends all the time. Well, let's do both, you guys, so we could just all kind of hang out and do what everybody wants to do. And so I guess in that sense, I was, a leader, but I didn't have any like titles, I didn't have like, as a 12-year-old, you're not walking around with the title CEO, right? Or CFO or general, and I think a lot of times people today, Connie, we have titleitis and people want titles, and because if you have a title that someone will follow you, right, and be obedient and be respectful because you have a title, and so I tell people that, the titles don't make the people, but the people make the titles. For a while I would hand out my business cards and I didn't even have a title on there, and people say, well, are you the owner of the company? And I'm like, yes and no. I you know what I mean? So it was like one or the other. Yes, I own it, but I also have my employees also own the company as well, right? So we had some sort of, what's the word? Everybody had a vested interest in it. Does that make sense,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
John Maxwell wrote a book, and another fantastic author and speaker, and the book is called The 5 Levels of Leadership.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, and he talks about the first leadership being positional or titleitis, right? So people follow you and they do what they're asked to do because you're their boss, you've got the title, and you're also controlling their paychecks, right? So in the world we live in today, the person who controls your paychecks controls you. And so I don't want to be a puppet. It's like today, I feel like today, the world we live in, if you have a job, you have a puppeteer, your boss, who is telling you when you could take a break, when you can go home. I mean, you have to get permission to take a vacation, you know, and if someone's already taken a vacation, you can't even go on a vacation, or you get written up because your break was too long. You know, maybe you had an urgent phone call to make or what have you. So the idea of getting away from that whole having someone control me made me realize that the first person I had to lead was myself, right?
Absolutely.
Instead of leading other people, okay, can you even lead yourself? Can you, you know, we can talk all day about that kind of stuff, but yeah, but I think I would recommend for everybody, you know, John Maxwell's book on 5 levels of leadership, you know, and there, another one is production leadership, meaning you have a certain amount of, you know, leadership because you've proven yourself, because you actually did something, right? And so when I was a young kid at the age of 5 years of age, I was bullied, was, you know, pushed around, shoved around, called all these different types of names, if you want to call it that. And my parents finally said, okay, we better get him into martial arts, you know, because if we don't, he might not even know how to defend himself. And at the time I didn't. I had no formal training. And so, yeah, I got my butt kicked a few times and came home with a few bloody noses and fat lips and black eyes. And the parents said, okay, we're going to get him in. So I got into martial arts, and I loved it. Like I couldn't wait for the next day so I can be there, you know, every day. I mean, I would have spent 12 hours a day there at the what they call a dojang, or at the studio. And I remember as a kid, you know, my master, every day we had to repeat this every single day, which is our philosophy. Number one is to be humble, number two is to respect, to show respect. And number three was patience. So those were our 3 main philosophies: respect, humble, and patience. And we would repeat that every single day when we started our class, when we ended our class. I eventually gone into some tournaments, Connie. And when I got into the tournaments, I did well. Fortunately, it moved me all the way up to a state championship level. Then I went to the nationals, and then I went world games. And so because of that, a lot of people said, well, he's the leader. Again, that's what production driven. It was, I worked my way up to the top and showed some examples of what it takes to be successful. So
I have to tell you, you mentioned John Maxwell. I went through his training, and one of the things I so admired about him, you mentioned the word humble. He's such a humble man.
Exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, if he doesn't actually act the part of what Napoleon Hill teaches, I don't know that anybody does. I mean, I think just absolutely. The first time I met him, I was just blown away about how simple and how wonderful he was. And the other thing I really love about John Maxwell is that he always says, and I'm paraphrasing because I know exactly what the quote is, but you always give with your heart before you ask for a hand. And I just really believe in that. And I'm sure you do too, because of how did you get so involved with Napoleon Hill? How did that all start?
So, you know, we grew up, my wife, Arlene, and I, we grew up in a very traditional family, which means Asian parents, because of where they come from, are so traditional. It's about going to college, getting a degree, and having a noble profession, and being a doctor and a lawyer, you know, that kind of stuff. So we drank the Kool-Aid, we were obedient, we were respectful, and that's exactly what we did. So my wife and I ended up going to law school. My sister became a doctor. And I think when they said to be a doctor, they weren't very clear. I think they wanted my sister or I to become a medical doctor, but she got her PhD and then worked her way up, has a couple of masters. And she started off as a teacher and worked all the way up. Now she is the first, Asian woman, first Asian and the first woman to become a dean at Pepperdine University.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was kind of cool. So that's my sister, but I went to law school and I dreaded every moment of it. And I wondered, what is this leading me to? But you know what? That is exactly where I met my wife. We met, the moment we saw each other, we knew. And within 3 months, we were getting, I proposed. And then 3 months later, we were getting married. And so we got married, we sat down, and before we got married, we talked about our life plans, our goals, and I call it our GPS. So we said, which GPS stands for, is an acronym, Connie, and the letter G stands for your goals. So what are your goals? Where are you, what do you want? The letter P stands for your plans. So in other words, if you've got these goals, how are you going to achieve those goals? What are the plans? What's your blueprint? And then finally, the letter S is schedule. How are you going to make time for this? And when will you get all this stuff done? So that we sat down and that was our GPS system. And we said, okay, by this time, we will have X dollar amount. By this time, we will have this many kids and how many kids we wanted. By this time, we'll have a house. And we had it all dialed in. And by having deadlines and having specificity with our dates, basically created a sense of urgency for us. It's like April 15th is your tax deadline. You got to file your taxes, which were right around the corner for everybody. Well, it's amazing how many people get all their taxes done and what they have to do a day or two before their tax filing date, right? I mean, they're scrambling all over the place, getting their receipts, getting all their bookkeeping done, right? They're getting all that stuff and they did it all last minute, and they got it done. It was very much like when we were in high school or junior high, we had to do term papers. I don't know if people do that anymore, students do that, but the professor or the teacher said it is due on this day. And there was no exceptions, and you turned it in, and that was it. If you didn't turn it in, you got an F. If you turned it in, you got a score. So we had deadlines. And so those deadlines are crucial because I get, when I ask people, I say, what do you want? And very often they'll say to me, I want to be rich. And I'll say, okay. And I say, well, what does that mean? They say, I want to make a lot of money. And they go, okay, what's a lot? And they go, millions. And I'm like, wow. And the problem with that is that if this was, my hand was a target and I had a bullseye on here and I gave you an invisible ball, Connie, or anybody else and said, hit this target with this invisible ball. But I'm going to give you a choice. I could either have it still like this, or I could have it moving back and forth. Or like this. What would you or most people choose? They would say, I want to have it still. Why? Because it's easier to hit. So when I ask people, I say, well, how much money do you want to make? And they go, a lot. I go, let's be very specific with that. And they'll say, $1 million. I go, okay, now, is there a reason why you picked that million? Or is that just a random number you chose? And they say, I just want to make $1 million. Okay, by when? And they always say as quickly as possible or as soon as possible. And that lies another problem because, again, that's the date. Yeah. You have no deadline. Whereas if you said December 31st, 2023, now you've got to put all your plans together and have that as your deadline. And that's what Arlene and I did. And this is in 1994.
Wow.
Well, we said
time.
And so 1994, we're sitting there thinking, okay, well, she says, I think we should start a business because what we're doing right now is not going to make us wealthy. We'll make a living, but it's not going to make us wealthy. I said, great. Well, why don't you do it first? See if it works out, whatever the business is. And if you make a lot of money, then I'll come in with you. And she says, no, it doesn't work that way. We have to do this together as a team. And I was like, oh, all right. I said, well, let me keep my full-time job so we have some income, but I'll work with you in the evenings and on the weekends. And there's that saying that's not what you do from 9 to 5, but it's what you do from 5 to 9. And so we went to the bookstore and we picked up a variety of books. Because back then, we barely had the internet. There was no YouTube. There was no Facebook. There was no Instagram. And there was no Zoom calls like we're doing right now. All there was a library and a bookstore. So we went to the library, tried to get these books. They were already checked out. And a lot of people may even say, what do you mean it was checked out? Yeah, there was like one copy of that book, and if someone took it, the book was gone. And sometimes if the book cover was there, the pages had been ripped out, the important pages. And then we started to do microfiche. I don't know if you remember the microfiche.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So yeah, we had the microfiche, and we had to go into the catalog and find out where it was on the shelf. Well, we ain't got time for this. We went to the bookstore and we bought 2 copies of every book. One of those books on the stand at Crown bookstores was Think and Grow Rich.
Wow.
So we bought 2 copies of that. We came home, we laid them out, and we looked at each other and said, which one first? And she says, I don't know, this Think and Grow Rich looks interesting, the title. So I said, great, let's start with that. And we could have picked any book, but that's the first one we picked. And so we pick it up, we began reading it. And after every chapter, we had discussed what we had read. What was your takeaway from the book? And so we started going through that. And before you knew it, there was a chapter in the book where it said how to turn your desires into gold. And I was like, well, I got a strong burning desire. That was chapter 1. And so I'm flipping through. It says how to turn your burning desire into gold. Well, that's what I wanted. And it was crazy because right in there, Napoleon Hill laid down on page 36, the 6 steps. And one of them says to have specificity of dates. And I said, we were just doing this. And that intrigued me so much, we couldn't put it down. We just kept on reading it and reading it and reading it, going back to it. And then, when we hear the word rich, Think and Grow Rich, most people will equate that word rich with finance or money, capital. Right. But that's not what Napoleon Hill was talking about, right? He said to be rich in all areas of your life. So what are those all areas of your life? So I've defined that now into the 5 F's. So the 5 F's, as you're following your GPS, the 5 F's, number 1, in no particular order, because everybody can prioritize that for themselves. But number 1 is your faith. Number 2 is your family. Number 3, is your finance. Number 4 is your fitness. And number 5 is how to have fun. Wow. So those are the 5 F's that you've got to have a plan for. We hear people say all the time, hey, you got to fake it until you make it. I hear that all the time. I just cringe when I hear people say, you just got to fake it, man. You got to fake it till you make it. And there's so many problems with that we can get into. But I say, let's change that. Let's change that to this. Faith it till you make it. Faith it. And that's chapter 2 of Napoleon Hill's book, right? He says to have faith. So you have to faith it until you make it. Arlene and I knew that we would always get to where we wanted to go. We had faith in who we were as individuals. Okay, not what someone else defined us, not what somebody else thought about us, but what we thought about us, ourselves. How do I look? When I look in the mirror, who do I see? Who am I? And so faith it. And so we knew we would be where we're at. And so, yeah. And then, and then people say, but fun, John, like really, like you put that in there as an area. And I said, yeah, you'd be surprised how many people I know that are uber wealthy. Okay. I mean, so much money. I don't even know if they know what to do with all that money. But here's the problem is they don't know how to even enjoy their life. They're so obsessed about making money that they've allowed money to control them instead of you controlling the money. And so when I hear people say, I want to make 100 million a year, and I go, for what? What are you going to do with all that? Well, I don't know. I just want to have it. And I'm like, that's crazy. That's like me saying, I want to go to Home Depot and buy 100 hammers.
I love it.
And they're like, they go, but why would you say a hammer? And I go, because it's a tool. Money is a tool. It's just like a hammer. You can take a hammer and you can destroy things with that hammer. But I can also take a hammer and I can build a church with it. I can build a home with it. I can build a piece of furniture with it. But money's the same thing. You could take money and you could shove it up your nose and inject it into your veins, or you could take that money and you can help people with it. You could donate money to research centers. You could do scholarship programs. What do you need? I want $1 billion. Like, why?
Yeah, exactly. It's not the money.
It's not the money. Yeah,
exactly. Well, you've taken a lot of your money and you've done some really good work with it. I was on your website, All for One Foundation. Tell everybody a little bit about what your foundation is all about. It's really wonderful.
Well, so a friend of mine, his name is Jeff, and we're sitting in Hawaii. We're at the Four Seasons. We're getting pampered. They're spraying Evian water on our face. We're living the good life. And he says, hey, John, he goes, you ever been to a third world country? I said, Jeff, I haven't. I said, why would we go to a third world country if we left a third world country? Okay, I don't want to go back. I want to just move forward. And he goes, well, how bad do you think it is? And I go, well, it's bad enough that most people want to come to America seeking the American dream. And he says, I think we should go check it out. And I was like, well, you go check it out. I go, but I'm not going. Okay. And so so he went to a country called Nicaragua. So he went to Nicaragua and he calls me and says, John, you got to get over here. I said, oh my God. I said, why? I go, are you okay? Have you been kidnapped, et cetera, et cetera? And he says, no, but you just got to show up. I already bought your ticket. You're on this flight at this time, blah, blah, blah. And I jumped on a plane. I went out there to visit with him. So we got picked up, and the next day, an organization called UNICEF and another organization called Save the Children and another organization called CARE came and picked us up at the hotel, took us out into the rural jungles. And then when we got out there, I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. We get up into the rural jungles, and these are women and children now, and they're not bathing. They're not hanging out getting a suntan. You know what they're doing, Connie? They're doing their laundry.
Oh,
and they're doing their laundry. They wash it out as much as they can, and then they walk 3 miles back to their village, and they put it up on a rope and put these wooden clips on there to dry out their clothes. They don't have washing machines. They don't have front loaders. They don't have Downy. They don't have Snuggles and Bounce and all. Yeah, they don't have this stuff. And here's what's really interesting about this is that these women and children here were having the time of their life. They're totally happy. They got no money, yet they're happy. See, a lot of people think that once they get a lot of money, they're going to be happy. And that's not the case. No. And so, but they were happy. Okay. And then we go up there. Now we're on our way up to the jungles, and you could see these, this is what we call Nicaragua toll charge. So they're stopping us because they want what? They wanted money. And so that just kind of made me go, wow. Now, we didn't give them any money, because I do have a problem with just giving money out. Because it's that old proverb, right? Where they say you can give a person a fish and they can eat for a day. But if you teach them how to fish,
yes,
then they can eat for a lifetime. It's like it's like your show, your podcast here. You're bringing in all these influencers and thought leaders and experts to provide content to people so they can get better. See, there's a lot. I tell people, don't be bitter, but get better. There's so many bitter people. What they need to do is get better. And so the idea of just giving money to people is not going to solve the problem. I need to teach them how to fish. And so we went up there, and there's a young boy, this young boy, 13 years old. Okay. He's now got his booties on. He's got a shovel, and I'm going up the road. I'm like, what is this kid doing? It's dangerous being on this road. He's going to get run over. You know what they said? That this kid woke up. He's not playing games on his phone. He's not playing computer games because they don't even have internet out there, okay? He doesn't have Xbox, PlayStation. This guy woke up in the morning and grabbed a shovel so that he can fill in the potholes so that cars don't get stuck as they're going up to the top of the mountain.
Wow. Wow.
And I said, what's the legal age where people can be employed? And they said, that kid's not employed. Are you insinuating he has a job? I go, well, I mean, what is he doing? And so here is the epitome of someone saying that I just want to help people. It's not about the money. Okay.
That is a great example. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
And he's
Oh my
only
goodness.
13 years old. And so I had to roll down the window and hand him money. He wanted to be the solution to the problem, right? And so I go up, there's another kid right there. There's another young man. This is my last dollar. I took a picture of this to take my last dollar I was giving away. Look at the kid's fingernails, all the dirt and mud in there. From what? From shoveling and patching in the potholes so that cars and trucks don't get stuck or get damaged on the way to the top of the hill. Now, once we got to the top, we got to this one location, and there was a young boy. There was a village. And I thought this was a community. It was a place where family lived and all that. And you could see the walls right here. It's not like it's, the Four Seasons, with granite marble floors and stuff. And this kid, I remember exiting the car, and I had all these cameras on me, okay? Very high-tech telephoto lenses as I'm coming out. And I see this kid standing at the door. And as I started to approach the door, you could see this kid running. I mean, like super quickly, and he stood in the corner of the room. And he says he's sitting in as he is right now, and I took a picture of him as he's standing there. And I said, why did this kid run so quickly? And he ran to the corner of the room. So we all approached them, which could have been very intimidating to have a group of people, especially, with these cameras and lenses that were super long and almost futuristic. And I walk up to this kid, and these two ladies walk up with me. And I said, what's wrong with him? And they said, in Spanish, Connie, they said, mijo, mijo, little one, ¿qué te pasa? Which means, what's wrong? And the little kid responds and says, ¿sabes qué? You know what? Tengo miedo, which means I'm afraid. And they said, ¿por qué, mijo? Why do you have fear? ¿Por qué tienes miedo? He says, because I've never seen anyone that looks like him. He has never seen an Asian man his entire life.
Oh,
I look so different than him. He was scared of me. And then as I started speaking to him in Spanish over the course of 2 weeks, I realized that we had not come to a village, but what we had come to is an orphanage with 150 kids there that were abandoned by their mothers, who were the average age of 14 years of age.
Oh my goodness. When I do my retreats in Mexico, we have a little village that we support. We always go to the school, and part of the money from the retreat and everything goes to this. And the last time we went to a little boy's orphanage.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to tell you, I could have brought home every single one of those kids.
Right?
I mean, and there's nothing like going and experiencing the little village that we go to. Is all of the workers there work for a resort. They're the maids, there's the landscapers, they're, the cooks and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And you go into this village, and you know what you said earlier about they were happy. They were joyful doing their laundry. Yeah, this village, these people are filled with joy, and they're the same. They have no money. And it's when you can experience that. And if you've never experienced anything like that, you need to do it, because it absolutely changes your life. It absolutely changes your life.
No question. So we wanted to know what they're going through. And I call this the 3 F's. That when anybody comes to you with a problem, right? First, you got to be a great listener. Okay. The second thing is the 3 F's. Is to say, I know exactly how you feel. I felt the same way, and here's what I found. Right? So whenever you go to a doctor, you're scared because you got a little pain in the side of your belly or somewhere, and you tell your friends, I got this, and they scare the daylights out of you, right? Because they'll say things like, the last time I had that, man, I had appendicitis and I was in the hospital. Then I had an infection and this and that. My last friend who had that pain, he died 3 days later. You're like, oh my God. And then you go to the doctors and they go, oh, so listen, I know exactly how you feel. I felt the same way, and I took this medication or what, I had this therapy and I was just fine. And you feel a sense of relief. Well, when Jeff asked me to know what these people were going through and how they live, I could not imagine myself living in those conditions. So to feel what they felt, this is where Jeff and I lived for 2 days. For 2 weeks. Okay. And in the middle of the night, you hear things in the jungle. We hear things like that. And I said, Jeff, are you awake? And he says, hell yeah, I'm awake. Man, we're like 2 grown men and we were terrified, Connie. Are you with me? When I returned, I had bags underneath my chin. I mean, it was like, I had not slept in 2 weeks because I was so scared to sleep at night, and then I was exhausted during the day, just doing stuff out there and just, the dehydration from not wanting to drink the local waters, running out of bottled waters. I mean, it was crazy. And so this was me, all these kids here, me doing magic trick for these kids. They thought I was a witch. Okay. 'Cause they've never seen a magician before. They've never been to a David Copperfield show in Vegas. I mean, they've never seen anything like this. So they were just fascinated by the little magic that I knew. These 2 boys thought I was Jackie Chan. And so I have the nickname Jackie, right? It's not like Jackie Chan will go to this area. Maybe he will one day, but they actually thought that, are you Jackie Chan in Spanish, And I was like, no, yes, I am. Yeah, So, but I mean, all these kids are so amazing. And so, yeah, but now after we did all that, we just loved what we were doing, that we decided to go to other countries and do the same thing. So as we did that, we started to realize that we had a lot of, what's the word I want to the feeling that we had, that there's no price to explain. There's no money, no award, no certificate. It's just the feeling you get when you help that many people. It was such a great experience that we wanted to do this over and over and over. And so we now have.
It's addictive.
It is, exactly.
It's so addictive. It's like I was just talking to somebody the other day, because since the pandemic, I haven't had a chance to go back. And I'm like, okay, the retreats are coming back. They're coming back. And it's not because I want to go do the retreats. I mean, I love doing them, don't get me wrong. But it's because I miss the kids. I miss the village. I miss the feeling of, they have a sanctuary, a turtle sanctuary there. So one of the things we do in the fall is release the turtles into the ocean. And the feel, you're right. It's all about the feeling. It's
extremely rewarding. And so I tell people, there's no way I can tell you what I feel. It's like people say, well, just tell me what it's like. And I'm like, I'll tell you what, I can tell you what it's like if you can tell me what a banana tastes like. And they'll say, well, it's sweet. I mean, you mean like an M&M, like that kind of sweet? Well, it's mushy. And they're like, well, now you're telling me the texture. Like, what does a banana taste like? And you know what they say? They go, wow, you can't. And I go, exactly. So how do you know what a banana tastes like? You just have to peel one open and bite it into it and know what a banana tastes like. there are no words to describe what we experience and how rewarding it is until you go to a place like this and help these people. And then what we also did is we started building medical clinics for the women to be able to give birth. Because by the time they got on these donkeys and these big trucks and they're coming down the hill, these rugged roads, I mean, they were giving birth by the time they got down to the hospital. And a lot of these babies got turned around inside, and then the umbilical cord got tied around their neck and this and that. And so when they were born, they were dead. And so we're like, holy smokes, you know, so we need to build a health clinic at the top of the mountain, not at the bottom of the mountain. And so that's what we do, Connie. That's what people say, you know, what do you do with all the money? Well, now you know. This is the kind of stuff that we enjoy.
Well, I have to tell you, John, I hope you'll come back and do this with me again, because I want to talk about your book and your movie, but we're running out of time here. So I hope you come back and do this again with me. I would really like to. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, Connie. Hey, by the way, just to throw in, April 30th and May 1st, in the next month and a half or so, we're actually having a Think and Grow Rich World Tour in Las Vegas. So that will be at the Sterling Club in Las Vegas. And Sharon Lecter, who wrote the Think and Grow Rich for Women version, also she's the co-author and co-founder of Rich Dad Poor Dad, will be hosting this event with us. And so it's a 2-day event. It's $50. You know, there's different price points, but, you know, we do provide lunch for everybody during those 2 days. So people are like, where's my money going?
I will be there. I live in Las Vegas. So there
great,
you go.
Yeah. So
maybe we could, if you have time, maybe we could finish and do another little short interview while you're here.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Okay.
Well, listen, John, thank you again. What the name of your foundation is? All in One, right?
All for One. All for One.
All for One. Okay. Please check it out. He's doing amazing work. I'll put the link in the comment section. And John, just thank you so much for. I really enjoyed this interview. I think it's going to make a big difference for people, and I can't wait to dive a little bit deeper into what your book and your movie are all about.
You bet.
All right, everyone. This is Kick Butt Leadership Interview Series. Kick butt means being what mindfulness when mindfulness brings vision, opportunity, and engagement. So thank you so much. And we will be back again, and hopefully again with John Shin. Thank you. Bye now.
Bye-bye, Connie. Take care.